So, as a disclaimer, we have the right to fair use, as I say every week, have the right to look into the things that we look into, and we also have the right to to critique things, to teach things, to report on things, and also for research. This is something we have the right to do. So we are not going to not do it for just because of whatever social pressure may be out there. All right, so thanks everybody for joining for another installment to this um, ministry page. Oh, excuse me. Wow, we don't want that. Why? We want this. Okay. Thank you all for joining. And so we're gonna finish up this today's. We're gonna finish up the series that I've done for this month called "Society's Biggest Hindrance." And so we have talked about a lot of things. We've discussed a lot of tragic things, a lot of things that may be just a little bit challenging to hear, but we are going to finish this tonight, or whenever you guys watch this, you will see it. And so, thank you all for joining. Like I said before, we talked about unsober men, we've talked about unsober women. There is one more part to this thing that we should discuss tonight, and that's what we will do. All right, so let's go for it. So, um, not wasting any time, it's already been about 7 minutes. The song I chose was kind of long, but I enjoyed listening to it, so we all listened to it together. This one is called Society's Biggest Hindrance Part 3. This is the last part to this series. Okay, so let's begin. In this three-part series, we have discussed the different ways that men and women have affected our world. We have also discussed how unsober actions have an effect on the society that we live in. Different social norms, which may not have been widely accepted back a generation or two ago, trend in another direction more than what our forefathers once were headed into. In today's modern time, which group has the most potential to have a negative effect on the future we all will see given the opportunity to live in it? This is important to discuss. This is important to think about because it's not just this. We are the adults today, but we will not always be the ones in control. One day the power will go to another group of people, and it is important for us to discuss who these people are so that way we can have a idea about what the future might look like if we are not careful. Right? The future of the world we will live in will be most greatly affected by the ways and patterns of wayward youth. Okay, this is important because today they may be children. Tomorrow they will be teenagers, and in a few years they'll be adults. So the ways and patterns they have today, if not careful or if not given proper understanding, or if we're not guiding these children into what is right, they will become wayward youth. And it just seems like young people, the age is starting to get younger and younger as to when they start getting into things, start doing things that affect their neighbors, their community, the cities they live in. It seems like the age is becoming younger and younger and younger. And we have to be wise to see that what we see today, and we must be wise enough to discuss it, but not only discuss it, but recognize it and try to do something about it before these kids become adults. I used to be a a school not school bus teacher. I felt like I was a teacher, but a school bus driver is what I meant. I used to work for a certain school district, and the stuff I would go through with those children when I first got there, it was just like a world of just different. I was like, wow, this is crazy, because I just came from the healthcare field, and so I went into doing the what is it? I went into doing school bus driving because I just needed something else to do. I wanted to try something else out. And when I got there, my first group of children were just so belligerent and in my mind crazy. But I found out in the next semester why. They would send the children home with me with snacks, and snacks full of sugar. So this would cause a lot of the people or a lot of the children who are on my bus to behave in a certain way. that I didn't necessarily desire for them to do. But of course, I'm not their parent, I'm not the teacher. I'm just a school bus driver. But I did have enough of an effect on them to where they did start coming closer to the front. A lot of my bad kids would come to the front, and they would have conversations with me. Now that wasn't all the time, but I started seeing that trend of, okay, I'm on you, I'm letting you know what the rules are, and for some odd reason you have more respect for me when I do inform you, like, hey, you can't just do whatever you want to do on this bus. There were a lot of bus drivers that didn't do that, and their kids would just run all over them, had no respect for them, and just were very disrespectful, very intolerant, just not really productive children. But I would pull over the bus as much as possible. As much as I needed to, I would get in these kids' face and I say, hey, you can't act like that. You know, you got to sit down while I'm driving, or you can't have food fights. And the funny thing is, the same way I would talk to them is the way I would envision talking to my children when they get older. And the funny thing is, the children who I was very much particular towards, during the Christmas season, they'll give me like gift cards. The parents would be like, "Oh, we just love you, Mr. Coleman. We don't know what you do to make these kids act right." I'm like, "I don't know what you're talking about because you don't see them on the bus with me." But every now and then I think about them and I wonder how they're doing now, what's going on with them, and if everything is good with them. Because a lot of my children at the time were in 4th grade when I left. And it's been about 3 years, so they should be in 7th grade now. And I just wonder, I'm not going to say their names. I wonder how they are. I hope they're doing good. Okay, so let's move on. The potential of the youth is one of great concern. The youth hold the power to do great good or the power to do great evil. The effects of youth can be seen in many things today. Our youth have not only the responsibility of the future, but the energy to carry out their desires for this world. So that's important. That's one of the things that differentiates, of course, young people from older people, is that they have the energy to do what they want to do. We all start off young, of course, but the older we get, the less energy we have normally, because we spend it doing so many other things that we don't have aimless energy to just go out here and do whatever we want to do, right? But the new group of young people do. And what they do with that energy greatly affects our world, because they have the power to, and not only do they have the power to do it, they have the gall to do it in a lot of situations because of what they've seen through different social media apps, or what they think is fun with the trend that they see on social media. A lot of these kids gather around and they do it with each other. And it's like, depending on that trend, that could be a good trend or a bad trend. I remember when I first started working where I'm at now, there was a TikTok trend where people would just set up their camera and just start dancing in the middle of like a restaurant. I'm like, bro, I'm doing a delivery. You gotta get out of my way. And so the funny thing is, they'll act like people should not catch them doing what they're doing, but you literally doing this out in public. How do you not expect for somebody to see what you're doing? I just thought that was so funny. I'm like, you're like 18, 19, doing a little, and this girl and her friend would do it right there. And I'm like, bro, move out of the way. We're the adults in the room don't want to see this. But it's so funny how different they are from when we were coming up. Like, even I see people around my age next to people that are like 10 years younger than them, and I'm like, Lord, we already look like the old people. Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, they have the power to influence how trends are now because they have the energy to get out there and do what it is that they want to do, whether that's good or bad, right? We can find many young people doing well as noticing when the path of error is waiting for them. We all were young at one point, but what are the harmful outcomes of a young person with ill intent and much time on their hands? So we're not talking about the good young people. You can see that it's easy to find that. We want to talk about the not so good young people, because we want to once again, this series is society's biggest hindrances. And so we have gone through these things so that we can be made aware and we can see these things for what they are, and that way we can and this is much easier to do with the youth than it is for already grown people. It's very hard to stop a woman from having multiple partners when she's 28, 29, 30. It's very hard to stop a man who's already in his 30s, 40s doing his thing, because you could just say, man, you probably should slow it down. That doesn't mean they'll stop, but with a younger person, you can say, man, you know it's going to hurt you in the long run because of this, that, and the third. And the young person may not have ever heard that. So maybe you reaching out to that person and being a good example could possibly help the future of the society we live in right now. Okay. So I have another point I want to bring up about these wayward children. Wayward children aren't fully to blame for their behavior. Their parents hold a huge influence on the path that they take. Unsober men and women create children with bad home environments, neglect and abandonment due to lack of care, and even low self-esteem for being discouraged. Now, when I say that, we have to understand most of the time, if not all the time, most of these children have somewhere to go where there's an authority figure that could discourage them into what is wrong or discourage them from doing right, simply because that person is unsober to where they can't see, oh, this is probably going to be a good hobby, a good habit that could turn to a good hobby that could turn to probably a lifestyle for this child that could benefit them. But I can't see further than that because of where I am right now. And we have to understand children are like sponges. Young people, they eat up what they see. And we have to be careful that what they see is not going to hinder them into becoming an hindrance to society. You know, there's a movie called, I've never watched it, but I know what the title is. It's called Menace to Society. And this is filled with the young people of that time being recorded, showing themselves to be knuckleheads and misfits and miscreants everywhere they went. And to some that was funny, but those people are old enough to have had not only children, now they could have had grandkids that have seen or may have seen this type of behavior in that movie. But the funny thing is, most of those people wouldn't even show that movie to their children. For example, Cardi B wouldn't let her children listen to her music. LL Cool J wouldn't let his kids listen to his music. Nicki Minaj won't let her child listen to her music. So why would you make music you can't show to your children? Because you don't want your child to do what? You don't want your child to stumble because of you. But the thing is, you're making millions of other kids stumble, and you don't care because it's not your child. Well, what kind of attitude is that for us to not realize there's a child watching us? But how much more is that when a parent doesn't care if their children are watching them, right? Children can struggle with self-worth because they can be compared to other kids by adults around them, which once again can be the parent. Now, the parent may be doing this as a joke, or they may mean well so that they could possibly encourage their children to do better. But a lot of times when you compare your children to another child, you kind of make them feel like they're not good enough. Like, oh, well, something wrong with me. I wish I was like Johnny. I wish I was like Susie. I wish I was like insert child's name. When you do that to your children, you don't show them the worth of who they are as an individual. You want them to kind of just move into being a collective. What if they're not called or meant to be that type of person? So you have to, when you do give your children advice, you give them advice or you give them guidance for who they are, not who you want them to be or what child you think. And most of the time, these children are only acting this way because of something else. You don't know how they live their lives, right? And the worst thing we can do as a parent is leave a child in the hands of their own imagination and ideas with little to no guidance and correction. What are some ways we can spot children that may not be headed in a good direction? So this is a call for the adults in the room to be adults in the room. We must realize that we have an effect on the youth. Some young person is looking up or has at one point looked up to you for guidance and what to do in their life. And if they feel like you are a worthy example, they'll come ask you questions. I remember this one guy, it was so funny, man. These kids, at where I used to go for church, there was 3 kids that would hang around me and my brothers, or whenever me and my brothers was around. So I started growing facial hair, and this guy was like, "What? When did you start growing facial hair?" I'm like, well, it's different for everybody. You know, I can't tell you when you will start growing facial hair. But I thought that was funny because like, bro, I can't give you an answer for your genetic path. I don't know that. But and the funny thing is, he had a little he had a little he had a little peach fuzz. Now I don't have any of that anymore, but it took me a while to get past the peach fuzz phase. But I just thought that was funny because like somebody is looking at me like I made it. I'm further along than you are. I'm like, bro, everybody's different. I can't. That's like asking me, how do you get this or that physical attribute? And I'm like, bro, we're not even have the same parents. Ask your mom or father. I mean, but then again, this alludes to going back to what I said. The home environment could affect whether or not they feel they can go to their parents, whether or not they feel they can, reach out, whether or not they feel they can reach out. Oh Lord, my daughter acting up. To whether or not they feel they can reach out to their parents. So let's like I read before, what are some ways we can spot children that may not be headed in a good direction? This is a good question to ask, and so I have some media I want to play for you all that will discuss some of these things. So I'm going to give you guys 5 things that show us these kids may be headed down the wrong direction, okay? So let's get started. One attribute of wayward children is wayward children are aimless with no direction and desire for life. So this is true because a lot of these children, you'll see what I'm talking about as we move along. But a lot of kids that I knew coming up didn't know what they wanted to be when they turned 18. A lot of kids didn't know where they wanted to go to college, or even if they wanted to go to college. A lot of kids didn't know about the skills and trades that were out there that could possibly give them money or bring them into a wealthy place. They didn't know about that because they weren't taught that in school and it wasn't reinforced at home. And a lot of times what's reinforced at home is some ill-gotten gain artists, some bad influences reinforced at home, or the parents let the children listen to it because they think, oh well, this is the cool thing, rather than saying this music is a little vulgar. And so when you see these kids grow up 15, 16, because I grew up when I was a teenager, it wasn't that long ago, but when I think back, it was almost 20 years ago. So when I was a teenager, the extreme thug look was out. Big baggy pants, big long shirts, tall tees, the G Unit era, a big Dirty South era. So most of that music was not like, it was either up in New York, so you had the Jay-Z's, you had the 50 Cents, you had the G Unit crew. All of them was pretty much from up north, or you had the Dirty South crew, which was the Lil Waynes, the oh my gosh, I can't remember. I didn't listen to this. I just knew about the artists growing up. So what effect did that music have on the children? The children were so hyped on the music, they didn't think about a future career path. Some of these kids couldn't focus in school. They give the teachers a hard time. All of this is something that says you are aimless. You don't have a reason to pay attention. You don't have a reason to think further than what's going on right now, because nothing around you is saying I ought to be somebody when I get older, right? Number 2, wayward children spend time focusing on being queer or accepted by an increasingly LGBTQ plus world, bound to make bad decisions about their demeanor and appearance. Now, I could have said more here, but there is, of course, we know, we have seen a trend of where there are more children that are within, or they acknowledge that, or they want to be accepted by this community because this is the trend for today. This is the cool kid. This is the fad. This is the trend. This is the direction of culture is in that direction. That wasn't what I was used to coming up. If anything, you were shamed out of doing that because you didn't want to come off as, oh, well, you acting like this, you gay, right? Well, that's what they used to say. They don't really say that anymore. It's more like, if you're not saying that in a positive, affirming way, then don't say it at all, right? And so a lot of these kids, to fit this status quo, they'll go in this direction because they want some sort of acceptance because of what they're not getting at home. So you will see this in what I present to you all today. Number 3, wayward children are angry with misguided passions that could lead to violent behavior. This is a very, very prevalent thing. When I was in high school, like I said, this is something I would see often. I mean, I saw girls be with guys that would hit on them, abuse them, be a little too rough on them, and they wouldn't say anything because they thought this was love. They thought, oh, he's being tough. He's being a man. No, honey, he's abusing you. Right? Number 4, wayward children have a hard time processing reality. They do not realize that their actions can cause someone else harm or even loss of life. All right, so there's a channel on Facebook where they say don't mess with the YNs. I can't say what it is because it's not appropriate. But they say don't mess with them because of what they'll do. Most of the time, the reputation is they have a gun on them and they might shoot you. They don't care about you. That's the trend. At least back in my day, they would fight. If the fight got bad enough, then yeah, they go on and do something crazy. But I wasn't a part of that crowd. I knew my people. I stayed where I was. I stayed out the way. I wasn't into that violent stuff, right? And number 5, consequences seem hard to children with no direction, and with the society leaning towards less meaning, long-lasting shame is inevitable. So when I say this, in society, we're moving towards less recompense. That's the word I'm looking for. They're trying to remove any type of consequence for behavior. So that's why I mean when I say a society leaning towards less meaning. It doesn't mean anything if I don't have to pay for this when I was wrong. It's just, oh, you was wrong. But there's no way to make this right. No way for redemption when you remove consequence. And so that's the thing is like when you commit crime, it's assumed that you go to jail. When you are working towards removing the consequence, people are just committing crime, so there's either callousness or long-lasting shame. Because now, in order for me to function in society and act like this doesn't bother me, I have to act like I don't care. But then I have to burden myself with things that make me care less. I get used to I get used to committing crime. I get used to doing things. I get used to it so long to where it doesn't bother me anymore. But for those that are bothered by what happened, it's long-lasting shame because what am I supposed to do about it? You guys won't let me go to jail and pay my dues to society because you keep bidding me out, or some function or of society saying there should be no prisoners. And to a degree, that kind of makes sense. But depending on what you're doing, you can't remove consequence. The same thing when you're a child and you go on punishment. You can't just do wrong without some type of way to make it right. Now, I'm not saying be legalistic in love and don't care, but because you care about your child, you will give them consequence. I want to show you that this is not right, and this was a severe thing we've done. We got to do something about this. But it doesn't mean I love you any less or that you earn my love back. After you, there's no reason to say that because I didn't stop loving you when you did wrong. But I have to show you how bad this wrong thing was, right? So I have some media clips to show you. Please pay attention. And disclaimer: some of this may get your heartstrings. It did get mine, but please pay attention. Take this stuff seriously because this is the future, and we want to be sober enough to realize the world we could be heading in if we're not careful. Okay. So this is a young man. I muted the video because there was some cussing in it. What is he holding? He's holding a tiara, and he's on the cheer team. So let's look at this young man. Let's just look at his body language because I'm not playing the video. I'm not playing the audio. Okay, so what you witnessed here, I'm going to play it again. He's holding a tiara. They're going to light it up. They're going to take a picture of this, and he's posing there in a feminine way, right? Look at it. Look, he's doing this. Oh, my God, oh, my God, oh, my God. It's 2 white guys doing this, making this. It's not about them being white, but these 2 adults are enabling his behavior because they're not saying, why do you want to take this this tiara picture? Why do you want to take this picture? And then, so it's one guy here. He lights it up. I didn't know how this boy's hand didn't melt. because it's fire. He's like, oh my God, that's so sweet, right? And then there's another guy showing him, and so he's like, oh my God, I love that, right? Well, this looks cute now, but let me show you what this could turn into in the future. Hope you guys can hear. Okay, so I think this is ironic because both of the guys I presented have this darker skin tone, and he does look like the kid, so it looks like a grown up version. But this is fantasy. This is not real, but I'm quite sure this is not too far away from reality. This is supposed to be a Christmas movie. There's supposed to be happy feelings, and this is a Hallmark movie. And so, of course, if you were anyone else, you weren't us, you would think the grandpa's being a little harsh. But let's keep going. Let's hear what the grandpa has to say. See, listen to that. He said, I got to draw the line somewhere, Regina. That's care. It's not necessarily saying you don't love. I just said it. It's not that you don't love the young man. Huh? You can't hear the clip? Wow. Okay, hold on. Let me make sure y'all can hear this. Let me make sure. My wife just came in there and said y'all can't hear. Not mute output. Excuse me. Let's do it like this.
You can wait in the lobby.
Can you guys all hear? Can we hear now?
Dad, you can't keep him out of church.
I
you all
can keep
hear
him
now?
out of my church. It's bad enough he can't give you grandkids.
He can give me grandkids.
How? You gonna knock up one of his
Can everybody
boyfriends?
hear? I just want to make sure.
No. It's one thing not to like women. Now he's trying to be one. I gotta draw the line somewhere, Regina.
Lily and I get up there and sing every year, and you have never had a problem with this before.
He never looked like that before. I don't know who to fuss at more, him or you.
Me?
Yeah, you and Warren never knew how to say no.
Dad, Lily is his own person.
So, this look is permanent? If it is, I want nothing to do with him.
What about Christmas?
I won't be there.
All right, so I don't know if you all need me to play it again from the beginning. I don't want to spend too much time, but I mean, I'll do it, whatever.
Hey, Grandpa.
So this is Lily.
Hey, Grandpa.
His name was originally Damon. That's who
Dad.
Grandpa knows
He goes
him
by
as
Lily
Damon.
now.
I don't know
She
anybody
says he's
named
Lily
Lily.
now.
Oh, God.
You named him Demond, I'm calling him Demond. What are you wearing?
Clothes.
I hope you brought something to change into.
Dad, his clothes are fine.
On a woman,
I'm not changing.
God.
you will if you want to sing in this church.
Okay. I'll pass then. I'll see you inside.
Okay.
Oh, you think you can walk up in the house of God looking all crazy as all get out?
Dad.
No. I don't want you dressed like that in this church, Demond.
Well, I'm not changing. You gonna send me home?
No. You can wait in the lobby.
Dad, you can't keep him out of church.
I can keep